All right.
Yo, I was eating a chicken tender. Scarily accurate today.
All right. Well.
Scarily accurate.
All right. We'll just flow with it. We'll just freestyle. Pat will tell a story, and we'll just freestyle after that.
Did it feel like you were eating your own dick?
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what that feels like, but scarily accurate.
Well, like, is your dick crispy or is it just like normal?
I put my dick in the air fryer when I was a kid. It's so crispy now.
Dude, what?
What?
It's all crispy.
That's gotta be the pre-intro.
Fried dick.
It's like a chicken
Kentucky Fried Dick.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Keepin It PC, Season 2, Episode 10. How was your week, LT?
It was pretty good. Some basketball with March Madness, some good baseball with the WBC going on. The boys are going to talk about it. It's Keeping It PC. We're back. We had a little bit of a break, and we're back and better than ever, as I said.
It was 2 weeks. It was giving a bunch of people a scare, though. They thought they were going to get the great hiatus that we did last time, but...
Another 6-week hiatus.
How was your time, Cole?
I'm doing pretty good. Just all I've been doing is literally watching sports until my brain turns numb. So
Yeah. And last but very not least, my lovely host, my very handsome host, the very cute Patrick Ferguson.
Well, thank you. I didn't expect all the compliments. My week's been fine. I've been watching a lot of March Madness. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the WBC, which just concluded last night.
Electric.
Some pretty theatric stuff in there.
LT, and Cole actually, we all watched it together last night.
We were going crazy that last at bat, man. That was electric.
Whoa! You all watched it without me?
Yeah, because we were totally gonna pick you up at Springfield.
Where's my invite, bro?
If you want to drive down from Springfield, go ahead, buddy.
Up my ass and around the corner. Anyways, we watched the WBC together, and last at bat, I want LT to narrate what happened at this WBC.
I mean, what else do you have to say, right? You got Mike Trout, you got Ohtani, arguably the two greatest players to ever play baseball. I'm not really going to argue that right now. I mean, maybe. That's what the media wants you to think, at least.
Right now, I think.
Right now, yeah, sure.
Right now.
So you saw the two best. You basically saw the best of the best in the ninth inning, 2 outs. It was a 1-run game, I think 3-2, and you just saw Ohtani honestly dominate. To be honest, but it wasn't really exciting at bat to begin with. But I mean, the whole game, Japan they don't have a lot of known players, but they know how to get the job done. Obviously, going against a completely stacked Team USA lineup and coming out on top, I think they should really be proud of themselves and thank Shohei Ohtani.
Now, Pat, I want to ask you this question because I saw you post this in the group chat. I think it was Mike Trout is a fraud or something like that, or you're talking shit about Mike Trout basically. I just want you to elaborate on that.
Mike Trout is obviously a fantastic player. He didn't have a great game. I think he struck out twice in the final, but he's been pretty. He's been all right in the tournament. I mean, I thought that game was it was an all right game, nothing too special until about the ninth. But I think the USA had the $1 billion lineup. If you add up all their contracts in that lineup, it equals $1 billion. And LT says there's not to us there's not a lot of known players in the Japanese lineup. Like I know, obviously, Shohei. As a Red Sox fan, they just signed Yoshida, so I always love watching him play. He played great. I think he's gonna be really great. Yu Darvish is obviously a household name, and then the rest of the guys, like these guys, are professional players. When you see a Japanese player come over to the MLB, it's hard pressed to find a player that really like shits the bed and doesn't play good. Like these are great baseball players. And that's the reason they won this tournament. They went undefeated. They didn't lose a single game. They're a cohesive unit. For God's sake, they had Lars Nootbaar on the team. So, who I don't know. I mean, I guess he had like a grandfather that was Japanese or something. But I don't know. He kind of was the spokesperson for the whole team because he could speak English. But I thought the tournament was great. I really do. I really enjoyed the last one. I I don't love the placement of it in the middle of spring training. But we can get into that in a minute. But I thought the games were electric atmosphere. I think every time they have it, it means a little more. Like you have institutions, games that mean so much, the Super Bowl, the World Cup, whatever, these games that are just so massive in magnitude. And people complain that the WBC is being treated like that, or some people don't find it as a big deal. But I mean, you have to start somewhere. The Super Bowl started with Super Bowl one. Like who thought it would become the biggest event in American sports? Like who would thought when the first Super Bowl they would become the biggest? You have to start somewhere. Like they've been around for a lot longer. The Olympics have been around forever. That's why they're a big deal. The World Cup's been around forever. That's why it's a big deal. The WBC's been around for 20 years. So I mean, and I think it does mean a lot to these players who don't really see, who grow up in the Dominican or in China or Japan, not viewing the World Series as the ultimate goal in baseball. They view as representing their country, representing where they're from. That's why a lot of Japanese players don't come over. They simply don't want to leave Japan to come play in the U.S. So, I mean, to say that it's an irrelevant exhibition tournament, I think is discrediting the amount of passion you saw from a lot of these players, even players in the MLB who are making fucking buttloads of money. They took time out of their spring training to compete on the international stage. They're not getting paid. The winner got paid like $50,000, which to these guys is absolute chump change. So I thought it was really great. Like that Japan-Mexico game was like one of the best baseball games I've seen in years. Absolutely electric. I really enjoyed the tournament. I would change when it's held, but I guess we can get into that in a minute.
I thought it was some of the most electric baseball that I've seen in quite a while. And I like, this is why I love it, because when people talk about the World Series champions, it's not the World Series. Like it's the MLB champion. Like it's not the World Series. This to me is the World Series. Like this is the best baseball players in the world representing their country and going out and trying to win it all for their country. And I think that there's something to be said for that. And I think this could turn into as big of an event for baseball as the World Cup is for soccer. I don't see why it couldn't be like that. I don't see why the Japanese league couldn't become, couldn't become huge, like in all over the world, right? Like the same way that soccer, like, yeah, the Premier League is viewed as like the top league, but there's no reason why the Japanese league couldn't be, just as popular as it and pull in numbers like, La Liga compared to the Premier League in soccer. I think it could be a similar situation to that. I think it's incredible for the growth of the game of baseball. I think the more leagues there are, the more professional leagues there are that get taken serious. And I think now, with the amount of Japanese players that come over and play well, I think, honestly, it could get to a point where these Japanese players don't even feel a need to come over. They can stay in their own league and play there if they want. That's what I hope. I hope that, baseball across the world can grow to a point where there's so many leagues and it becomes a little bit like soccer where guys are moving from leagues. Obviously, MLB will be the top dog always, same way the Premier League is. It'll inevitably, it's going to be like that because it's America. It's going to make the most money and stuff like that. But it's nice to see that these other countries came to play. I mean, the U.S. didn't have a cakewalk by any means. I mean, I guess the Canada game was, a cakewalk, and Great Britain put up a decent fight for a little bit, but then, it was nice to see that Japanese team be as passionate as they were, play the way that they did, pitch around that superstar lineup of the U.S. I mean, they did a great job. I think it's awesome for the growth of baseball, and anyone who claims they're a baseball fan and doesn't like the WBC, you're not a baseball fan. What you are is you're a fan of your team. You only give a shit about your team. And I don't like that. I think this was huge for baseball. Huge.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was perfect timing for the game, like for the game of baseball to get the WBC this year, because a lot of baseball critics, or I guess the people that aren't really fans of baseball, say the game's boring, whatever. A lot of people would say that baseball is a dying sport, I think. And this proved to a lot of people, and especially the casual sports fans who don't really follow baseball, that baseball is still one of the most highly profitable sports still. And it's definitely still at the top of the nation, let alone the entire world. So definitely great timing for this. And baseball's the best that it's been in probably God knows how long.
There's so much talent in the game, and I just think this tournament was so crucial to the growth of the game in Asia, in Europe, and I think baseball it'll keep expanding, it'll keep growing, and it'll get to a point where I think that this tournament is not viewed by, casual fans as a joke. It's going to be viewed as, this is what guys want to play in. This is exciting. This is what guys play for. It's going to turn into the World Cup for baseball.
I mean, I would say, as an American growing up, the World Series was like the biggest thing in baseball. So I'm not going to sit here and say, like, I think the WBC for me personally will ever be as big as a World Series. I would never say I'd rather see the USA win the World Series than the Red Sox, or the USA win a WBC than the Red Sox win a World Series. Like, to me, that's not like a possibility there. But that's because I grew up in an environment where the World Series is held in such high regard. That's not the case in any of these other countries. They don't give a fuck about the World Series because they're watching Dominican leagues and, they're watching their individual leagues. And the only problem I had with it, it was the timing. I think this was a fucking terrible time to have this tournament. I really do. You can say the injury concern. I want to pick in a minute. I want to pick T's brain because he just lost his closer for the whole year to this, and that's a freak accident. He didn't do it playing or anything. But why are we having this in the middle of spring training, especially this year when we're implementing a whole slate of brand new rules that they are not using in the WBC? They're not using the no shift rule. They're not using the pitch clock. They're not using these things. So these guys who are supposed to be getting accustomed to these rules before the start of the season, so we don't see mistakes on the pitch clock. We don't see, they get used to like not having a shift or whatever, the restricted shifts. That's counterintuitive to the actual regular season play, which in my opinion, obviously is more important than the WBC. I loved the WBC. Like, I loved watching it. I felt the stakes, but the teams that are paying these players are obviously like, if I'm the Angels, both of my guys are in this game last night. Ohtani's busting his ass down the first base line. I'm like, oh my God. If I'm the Angels, I'm like, please don't fucking tear your ACL. Like, that's my whole fucking, that's why people come to the games to watch this guy play in Trout. So it's like, obviously you want them to do this. And this is an MLB sponsored event. The MLB actively encouraged these guys to go play in this thing. This isn't like the Olympics in hockey when Ovechkin threatened to fucking resign from the Capitals because they wouldn't let him play for Russia in the Olympics. It's not that situation at all. But I just think this would either be better as a mid-season tournament or in November. And in November. And I know Cole's going to say no one's going to want to play after 62 games, but that's just false because they all go play in the Dominican League and they go play in these leagues in the winter. When they're not playing. Is November's basically. Okay, so have it in December. I don't care. Have it in the off season.
I disagree.
Have it in the off season.
I'd put it. I love the timing of it, and here's why. It is the perfect ramp up for the season for these players. You do it at the end of the season. These pitchers aren't any more enticed to go at the end of the season than they are in the beginning. Let's just be honest. No, these pitchers aren't going to want to go more. They're not going to want to go more in mid-season. And let's be honest, the logistics of making it work mid-season are too difficult. You'd either have to say, we're going to continue the season while the WBC is played, and then these teams lose their superstars, or the superstars don't want to go because they're in the middle of their season playing for their team.
What's wrong with taking like a 10-day break for the All-Star break? 10 days. Anybody who wants to play in this tournament can play. And this is what I'm saying. They said all these USA players are like, I wanted to play because I wanted to represent my country. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to, wear the flag on my chest. I wanted to be proud of where I'm from. I wanted to have pride for my country and compete against other, superstars from around the globe. Why? Okay, so do that after the season. there are half the teams in the league don't make the playoffs. I think the only problem you'd run into is guys that are going into a deep playoff run. I mean, add incentives, add pay if you want. I just don't think it should be. They should be taking a high level innings, high level play in March, and that's just my opinion. When you're gearing up for spring training is all about fundamental baseball, getting you back into the fundamental of the game and getting you slowly geared up for the long and grueling season that is the MLB season. And these high stakes things, like you saw Freddie Freeman fucking whatever, he had an injury or something. Like if I'm it's just not how. And Diaz, if he was injured in November, they would get him back at the All-Star break. Now they lose him the entire year.
Here's why I disagree with you strongly. I want this event to have nothing to do with the MLB. I want this to be a completely completely separate event. The same way the World Cup has nothing to do with the Premier League, the same way it has nothing to do with La Liga. That will be what's best for the growth of baseball. And let's be honest. Let's just be honest. You put it in November. Which one of those players on that United States team is playing in the Dominican League? And which one of those hitters in the lineup is playing in the Dominican League? Not one of them. They're all going to train privately. They're not playing baseball.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a league thing. No one's playing real baseball in the winter. That is a legitimate option for any one of these teams. They are big leaguers that are established, right? So I think this is the perfect time. And yeah, okay, maybe it's not ideal this year because of the rules and whatever. Even that, it's like, it's a 162 game season. If you're a major league player and you can't get used to those rules in the first 10 games of the season, I don't know what to tell you. Go back down to the minors because you don't deserve to be here. The point, I think it's the perfect time to have it. It ramps the hits up for the season. I don't think the pitchers I think are less enticed to go if it's in November or December.
Okay, but no notable pitcher went anyway. I mean, their ace was Adam Wainwright.
So what's the point? You're gonna ask a pitcher to, if you put it in December, okay? Let's say you don't make the playoffs. The last time you pitched was in September. You're gonna ask someone to ramp it up in December, get ready for a major tournament in December, ramp them up then they have to cool down again after the tournament, then get ready for spring training, and then ramp it up again. That's just not realistic.
Well, okay. First of all, I want to say your soccer comparison makes absolutely no sense because the MLB is by far and away the most dominant league. No other league is even in the stratosphere. The best players in the world play in the MLB, whether that be the Japanese players, the Dominican players. They can't have these kind of leagues all around the world because that's not how that works. The best players in the world go to the MLB. When you look at the Dominican team, these guys are fucking littered, and Puerto Rican team are littered with MLB players. They're all MLB players. So
I don't think that has to affect. I don't think that's to affect this event. And I think what would be best for the game of baseball would be completely separating this from Major League Baseball. They should not have anything to do with Major League Baseball. It shouldn't be a factor in the players' decisions. And if the teams have a problem with it, then you put it in the players' contract that they can't play in the WBC. And guess what? I guarantee you, a lot of players would be options for these teams wouldn't sign that contract.
Well, of course they wouldn't because they want to get paid. But I'm saying if you're so, and obviously they're probably feeding bullshit to the media, right? I love my country so much I want to play for my country or whatever. But if they say they're so into their country and they want to play for the country, I don't see the problem with them playing 2 months after the season's ended. For some of them, they have 3 months because you have basically a month off if you get to the playoffs. If they want to play that badly, and this would only really be a problem for the U.S. You talk to any other player, they surveyed like 50 players that weren't U.S. players. They said to them, the WBC is bigger than the World Series. Winning a WBC championship is bigger than winning so that wouldn't be a problem for the Dominican players, for the Puerto Rican players, for the Venezuelan players. They would play anyway.
They would play anyway, but I'm saying this product of baseball that we just got, it would not be the same in November or December or January that it would be now. It just would not.
But Cole, they just had Cole. They just had fucking 5 months off. So what are you talking about? They haven't
Yes.
played for 5 months.
And they're going right back into the season after that. Putting it in December, they're not going right into a season after that. You're asking these guys who go through strict off-season training programs to put a hold on that, ramp up, get ready for games in December.
Okay, it's not a month-long tournament. It's 10 days. Put a hold on that. It would fly out, and it's like a vacation.
No,
like
Pat,
it's not.
from a pitching perspective, that is worse for the players.
Okay, but they didn't get any pitchers anyway. So what's the difference? They were starting. They had fucking Miles Michaelis. That was like their second best option.
But it's not. It's not good for any pitchers anyway. So it doesn't make sense to move it. And what are you doing by moving it? You're not doing anything. All you're doing is
you are doing something. Okay.
Now for the hitters, it's I just played 162 and I'm going right into another season. I'm going right into anher tournament in November.
That's what I'm saying. They're going right into the season. So you get injured, that's your season. That's actively affecting, unless you tear your ACL and you're out for 2 years or whatever, and you have this long rehab. Okay, you break your pinky, you're missing 2 months of the MLB season.
And this is exactly my point. And this is exactly my point. It should have nothing to do with the MLB season. They shouldn't move it because of the MLB season. It shouldn't matter.
How is that? How is it in March? How is it in March not being influenced by the MLB season when they're in the middle of spring training?
Because let's be honest, spring training doesn't mean shit. It really doesn't.
What do you mean? Okay, that's not true. That's not true. You talk to MLB players, they need spring training. Talk to Alex Rodriguez. He said, I couldn't be taking meaningful at-bats in March. What's his name? Clemens just said that. I couldn't be pitching meaningful innings in March.
Yes.
Players need spring training.
Yes, and Pat, this is the ultimate spring training. The WBC was better for these players than taking meaningless at-bats in spring training. I guarantee you, Trey Turner is feeling way better now going into the season than if he took 10 at-bats in November and then went through a spring training and then it's just, to me, there's no point in moving it to November. It should have nothing to do with the MLB season. The MLB season being when it is should have nothing to do with when the WBC is.
But the vast majority of players are in the MLB, so how did you say that?
Doesn't matter.
What do you mean it doesn't matter? How does it not matter?
Because
I'm not concerned. It doesn't matter. It matters to the owners who are paying them.
Then put it in their contract that they can't play. It shouldn't be the WBC's problem that these owners are paying them. And
the WBC is an MLB event. It's ran by the MLB. It's advertised by the MLB.
And it shouldn't be. I don't think it should be. For the growth of the game.
No one's going to fucking watch it. If no MLB players are fucking playing, and there's no advertising, there's no hype around it, no one's going to watch it.
Pat, let me ask you a question. Which one of the major soccer leagues sponsors the World Cup? And you can say
the World Cup's been around for 100 years. The World Cup's been around for 100 years. And there is international play in soccer. That is a normal thing. International play in baseball is not. International in baseball is not an established thing. It's not.
So are we supposed to never?
Not.
So are we supposed to never establish it? Never ever establish it. Should never be a thing.
When did I say that? I didn't say that.
So how are you supposed to establish it if you have an MLB season that is determining your WBC and you're going to put a worse product on the field because I feel sorry that the owners might get a player might get.
Okay, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying for the team, I don't want to have my fucking player injured going into the season. The soccer comparison makes no sense because there's 5 major leads. There's 5 major leagues in soccer. There is one league that matters. I'm sorry. There's one league that matters in baseball. It's the MLB.
I'm not saying you're wrong. And by the way, globally, I guess, but the Japanese league matters to people in Japan. Like it matters.
Of course.
So, but I'm not just gonna write that off. Like at the end of the day, if they want to grow the sport of baseball, the WBC should be an independent event. Should not matter what the owners of the MLB think. It shouldn't matter what it shouldn't have anything to do with the MLB. I don't care if 99% of the players play in the MLB. And let's just be honest. How many players injured in WBC? How many teams really got affected by it? And how did Edwin Diaz get injured? And how did Edwin Diaz get injured?
I'm saying it's a risk. And this year, yeah,
he could have got injured. He could have got injured anyway. He could have got. Should players not train in the offseason because it's a risk? Should players not play in spring training because it's a risk? How many players get hurt in spring training every year?
They're high-intensity innings, Cole. That's the difference. It's high-intensity innings. So not playing high-intensity. You are more likely to get injured in a high-intensity inning than a spring training game.
Good question. If Edwin Diaz had the injury in December, would he be playing this season? No. So what's the?
Yes, he would. He's back by the All-Star break. He would. It's 8 months for the year.
All right, boys. All right.
Okay. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. You're in August of the season. He's not back. And then he has to ramp up. First of all, do you know how long it takes back to get from an ACL as a pitcher? You can't just go start throwing. You have to go through a whole training program. He'd be out for the year, whether he played in November.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying in major injury stuff like ACL and Edwin Diaz's injury. I'm saying a broken pinky where you miss 2 months. I'm saying a broken thumb where you miss 3 weeks to start the season.
And how
what I'm saying.
How many?
That's what I'm saying.
How many of those happened?
I'm not okay. It didn't happen this time, but the more you happen, the more likely it's gonna happen. The more games you play, the more likely somebody's gonna get injured. And in high intensity innings.
So the solution is move it to November. Then the player's hurt for the whole offseason. Then they're not training because they're hurt.
Okay, it's not ideal when the player gets hurt, but it's better if they get hurt off season than they get hurt during the season.
So we should never have it. Because they might.
That's not what I said. I said have it in November.
That's even stupider to me, to be honest.
All right. I want to hear LT's take on this because me and LT has just been in awe listening.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I guess if I had to say anything here, obviously I'm very upset that Edwin Diaz is no longer going to be playing for the Mets this year due to injury. Huge Mets fan here, if you guys didn't know.
The only Mets fan here, and he's not even in this argument.
I couldn't even butt in if I wanted to. That was some crazy stuff we just heard.
Because Edwin Diaz got injured on celebrating. It's like not
Okay, but Miggy back in 2006, Miggy fucking broke his middle finger for 3 months and he missed fucking half the season.
Okay.
So, this is obviously an injury that didn't happen during the game. But if this was a regular spring training, it wasn't the WBC, whatever, you wouldn't even be in a celebration to tear your ACL or get pushed like that. So you could blame it on being a high-intensity inning that he did get injured because you would not see that in spring training. But I'm not saying they should move it or whatever. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying it's very unfortunate what happened to Edwin Diaz. But I'm not gonna go out here and start screaming at somebody to move the date.
Okay, I for the record, I prefer it if it was in November. I like the tournament where if they're gonna have it in March, whatever. But I would prefer to have it when it's in the off season. That's just my opinion. As a fan who wants their best players to ideally be ready for the season, and you could say it's a better warm up than spring training. I disagree.
You could disagree with that. I'll be honest. That I could understand you have an opinion to move it to November, but to say this isn't a better spring training, a better preparation for the season than spring training, I think is outrageously ridiculous.
Okay, so watch all the pitchers that play in the WBC when they have a ground out, when a grounder right in front of them. Watch them chuck it over the first baseman's head because they missed half of spring training, not working on these basic drills that they have to do to get ready for the season. Just watch.
Because it was a real problem for them in the WBC, fielding grounders right back at them and throwing it.
Yeah, you saw Wainwright fucking clear it over his head twice in the fucking game against fucking Cuba. He threw it over his head twice.
Wainwright, who's been doing pitcher fielding drills for 25 years.
I'm saying all I'm saying is you're depreciating what spring training is. And you talk to MLB players, spring training, they need spring training. Spring training is a valuable asset to get ready for the season.
Yeah, and I don't think the WBC being
all right
in
spring
training.
We're just going in circles now. Let's reel it back in and let's just get into the next topic that we're going to talk about. March Madness is finally here. We couldn't talk about it last week because we didn't record last week. Pat, you want to You want to start us off with what's happening in March Madness?
While you guys start this off, I gotta go grab my computer charger, or I'm about to shut off.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been watching. I've been digesting a lot of March Madness games. It happened coincided with my spring break, which was nice. I just got to sit home a bit and watch the games. A 16 seed beat 1 seed, which is like it's a big deal. I think it's becoming less and less a big deal as it happens more often. Princeton, I think, is the story of the tournament. I mean, 15 seed in the Sweet 16, an Ivy League school, which typically don't really see doing too much in the tournament. I think Cornell was the last Ivy League school to make the Sweet 16. And then probably, I don't know. To me, there's not, and this could be, I'm just a neophyte in college sports in general. I don't watch a lot of college sports. I don't watch a lot of college football. I don't watch a lot of, I watch a lot more college basketball than college football. But I don't know. I haven't been as into the tournament as I have been in the past. This year, I think they're lacking like that kind of massive figurehead like Zion or somebody like that to kind of like, or like a super team like Kentucky in 2015 that was undefeated. It was a huge storyline. Yeah, LT.
I see. Yeah, definitely, I can agree with that. You don't see anyone in this draft class even because you got Victor Wembanyama in France, obviously. He's the big name in this draft class, obviously not in March Madness. But I have to disagree with you saying that the tournament itself not being entertaining as the years past, because if you're a
No.
basketball fan, I'm sorry, but if you're a
No.
basketball fan, man, I don't think it gets much better than March Madness. I mean, you got the NBA playoffs, always exciting, of course, but just seeing a team like Princeton going out and taking out the number 1 seed, I just feel like that's just the magic of March Madness. You know what I mean? It's literally called madness. And anything can happen. And I just think the idea of the fact that anything can happen, you see these Cinderella stories every year, whether they win or not, but you still see it every year. I just feel like that alone for basketball fans, it's the best it gets.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna disagree. I fucking love March Madness. Like I really do. I don't know. I'm kind of like on the Princeton train, even though I think they're gonna lose tomorrow to Creighton. But I thought they were gonna lose the last 2 games, so I don't know anything. It's I don't know. I'm kind of looking for a story to grab onto. Like Loyola Chicago a couple years ago went to the Final Four. That was my thing. I was like really rooting for them. I think what was it last year? St. Peter's, right? St. Peter's was a huge deal.
New Jersey.
Yeah, so I mean, Princeton's kind of that you always find like this Cinderella team and you root for them. Because I don't really have a dog in college. Like I guess I kind of vote for UConn just because I'm from Connecticut and they're the huge, like they're pretty much the most successful D1 college basketball team program in the country. I mean, they have like 15 national championships in the last 20 years or something between the women's and the men's. So, that's a big, and I follow them, so I root for them, and they're doing pretty well this year. I think they have a decent shot playing Arkansas. So I don't know. And to me, the first 2 rounds are always so much more. I don't know, like madness. There's much more madness in the first 2 rounds than when you get to the Elite 8 in the Final 4, because at that time you kind of get the teams that are supposed to be there, and it's great. And it's great to watch. I love watching the games, but it's just not it doesn't have that same kind of like wonder and like excitement about, oh wow, I'm watching this game, but look at this. Gonzaga is down 3 with 3 minutes left, and even if they don't win that game, or even if they don't lose that game, I'm still like, oh shit, this fucking random team you've never heard of from fucking South Carolina could beat this huge program.
Yeah, it's definitely the most electric in the first few rounds. You're not wrong about that. Cole?
This is March Madness. It's like the same shit every year. It's like there's some upsets, and then the teams that are supposed to win, and then it's like it's the same every year. To me, it's like
yeah, cool.
I don't know. Like I don't know. It's just I love college basketball, but I think March Madness sometimes gets like a little overblown in how it's the same stories every year. It's like at what point is it like, okay, we've seen this before. It was cool the first time a 16 beat a 1, and then it happened the second time. I was like, yeah, I mean,
no, but I think this was like a way bigger deal than when UMBC beat Virginia, because they were ranked. How? Because this team didn't even. This team
ever happened.
No, but this team wasn't even supposed to make the tournament. They didn't win their conference. They weren't even supposed to be in the tournament. So to me, that's like, and they were ranked like 293 out of like 300 fucking programs or whatever, while UMBC was like 170. So I mean,
it's all the same to me.
Wow.
Wow.
Dude, this is how I feel about the NFL. This is how I feel about the NFL draft, and Cole doesn't get it, but this is exactly how I feel about the NFL draft. It's just a giant.
This is. I think the NFL draft is so different, and I really don't think it's the same every year. But I mean,
you got some good players, and you don't. That's it.
It's just, to me, it's just like,
it's exciting to me to see like who your team's going to take, who you should want your team to take. I don't know. I'm just more into that, I guess. But
yeah,
the thing with me with like college, the March Madness, I love it. Don't get me wrong, I love it. I like it more than the NBA. Like I watch college, but I will watch college over the NBA any day of the week.
Only for the playoffs.
No, I disagree. I'll watch any college basketball game over an NBA game. Just because I don't like, you guys are Knicks fans, so I get it. You guys are Knicks fans, so I get it. I don't really like. I joke I'm a Raptors fan. I could give a shit. Like I don't care. So I would rather I'll turn on college I know, mind blowing, right? But I will turn on college basketball and watch it. And so I like the game a lot, and I love the games, but sometimes I feel like people want the underdog to win so bad I don't even want them to win. Like I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like sometimes the announcers are like hoping they win so much. I'm like, now I don't even want them to win. It's like I don't know. It's weird. I'm weird. Like I don't like underdogs as much as some people do. I don't know.
Because sometimes the underdogs become the favorites, and then everyone's just rooting for the underdogs.
I think that's what I don't like. I think that's when the underdog becomes like, oh, everyone's picking them now. It's like, are they even an underdog anymore? Now I don't even want them to win. You know, like Oral Roberts this year. Everyone was picking them to win, and I was like, now I want Duke to win. I'll never root for Duke. Now I kind of want Duke to win. It's like, fuck. I don't know. Like, Fairleigh Dickinson's cool story. You know, I respect it.
Yo, you own that team, bro?
Yeah, apparently, that's my cousin, bro. Like,
yeah, I was about to say, was that named after you?
I think it was. It's like, if you don't know, my real name is Fairleigh, and I got legally changed to Cole back in '98, and then like Fairleigh Dickinson came to me and was like, well, we actually want to name this after you. And I was like, oh, well, I legally changed my name. But they were honoring like what I did when I was Fairleigh. So I was just like, yeah, you can call it Fairleigh Dickinson. But yeah, all jokes aside, I think it's good for their program because I don't know if you've seen the pic of their gym, but like that's what's awesome. I think this will bring them a lot of help in terms of their program. Honestly, help them in recruiting. I mean, I think that's a big thing for this tournament that goes underrated. I think a lot of these teams that are underdogs, they get helped the next year in recruiting. Like they get some better players and easier, and it helps the staff too. Like the coach of Fairleigh Dickinson, I can't remember his name, but he just took the job at Iona that Rick Pitino had, and went to St. John's. So it's cool.
That's what I want to talk about because it always throws me for a loop. As soon as these teams get eliminated, that coach is out of here. Coach, I totally forget his fucking name. On Fairleigh Dickinson, you see the video of him in the locker room. He's like, the more I see Purdue, the more I think we could beat them. And like he's kind of become the figurehead of that team and like that what they're doing. And they're a 16 seed and they just beat like all shit. And then as soon as they're done, as soon as the story's over, he's out of there. It's like it's so crazy. And I know it's like a game of opportunity. Obviously, Iona I think it's their job than Fairleigh Dickinson.
Oh, definitely.
But it's just so funny to me how quickly that shit like the guy on right fucking St. Peter's, the motherfucker was out like the night his team got eliminated. He fucking went to Seton Hall or whatever. I was like, damn, bro, they just fucking got eliminated.
The coach's name was Tobin Anderson.
Yeah, Tobin Anderson.
Good guy.
Yeah. Remember his name.
Yeah, and
he's gonna win. He's gonna win NBA championships 5 in a row.
He's gonna bring the Raptors to its well-deserved glory.
Speaking of the Raptors, Cole, you have an interesting take on Kawhi Leonard. Would you be willing to share that to the audience?
I just think it's cringe and corny, the narrative that oh, Kawhi is so humble and frugal because he drives his 1997 Chevy Tahoe that still runs and it's paid off. Like, bro, I don't care. I don't care if that's like,
my
oh, it's
God.
still. You make $40 million a year. That's not humble. That's just literally stupid. Like, I'm sorry. You can say he's not materialistic or he's frugal. The fuck he isn't. He has 2 mansions.
Maybe
People
there's
that are
more
frugal-
to it though. Maybe
There's
that
not more to it.
that maybe
Maybe-
he
maybe
had
he
maybe he
has-
lost his
maybe-
virginity in that car and he doesn't want to lose it.
Yeah, is it Cole? Is it possible he has an emotional attachment to this car?
Exactly.
Or here's a bright idea. Kawhi doesn't think like you. He doesn't want just because he has all this money.
He's
He doesn't.
materialistic.
He doesn't. He doesn't. No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's not materialistic. I'm saying he's not always. Maybe he doesn't. And like a car wise, he doesn't need something that has a fucking diamond embedded fucking steering wheel. He just needs He just wants a car.
I didn't
drive
say
my
he
car
has to-
to get place to
But
place.
that's the thing. I never said I expect him to be driving a Lambo. But bro, it's corny when you're driving the same car you drove high school when you're a finals MVP, bro. You're not fooling anyone. We know you can afford a night. I'm not saying you gotta pull up in
Oh
a
no
fucking
shit! He can
Lamborghini.
afford it.
Yeah, so it's corny that you're driving. Like, you could easily get that same car in a 2014 and be like, yeah, you know, it runs. That would be like, okay, you're being humble. I respect it, bro. There's no reason.
There's probably
There's no
like a
reason.
lot more to
Yeah,
it. There's definitely
probably
something
is.
like some
Oh, that was
family.
probably his.
There
That was
probably is a
probably
lot
his
more to it.
first. That was probably his first car.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
probably was.
People get attached to the first car.
Yeah, okay.
I got attached to my first car.
Were you bullshit? You don't even have. I don't have my first car.
I crashed
brother
that
don't
shit
have
a
his
month
first car?
after, bro.
Oh, but he's had it for how long? Like for fucking
So you're telling me
That's
you're telling
like
me if
years
Kawhi,
and years and years.
so if Kawhi wrapped that shit around a tree, he would fucking frame it in his house because it's so sentimental to him.
Cole, were you attached? Cole, were you
Remember that he
attached
sat
to
on
your
the
first car? Were you attached to your first car, Cole?
Sure. I don't. Not really. I don't know. I don't really. Not enough. Not enough. Where if I made $40 million a year, I would choose to drive it. Like, like, bro.
Yeah, but
it's
you drove
corny.
it for what?
corny.
2 years? You drove it for 2 years?
Yeah.
He's been driving this thing for fucking a decade.
Yeah, that
This
makes
has
it
been
even
part
cornier.
of his. This has been part of his life for a decade.
That
So
makes it even
mean,
cornier.
if why do you like saying he's stupid for driving a car that still drives?
No,
Let
it
him live.
is
Like,
stupid.
let him
It kinda
live.
is stupid.
Like,
No,
why are you
I'm
hating
not.
on his? Why are you hating on the
I'm
lifestyle?
hating on it. I'm hating on it because it gets publicized so much, and he takes advantage of it.
Oh
And
my God!
I haven't heard of that. You sent it to me. I hadn't. Nobody's going around. They're not during the game. They're not like, oh, you know, he's still
Trending
drives that
on
car for
Twitter.
7.
Trending on Twitter.
Let me hate on bro. And Marlon Humphrey even posted and agreed with me. He's like, nah, that's literally not. That's not humble. That's just dumb. Because it is. Like, it is.
First off, why is Marlon Humphrey out of all the people that keep
Because
saying it?
because Marlon Humphrey sees what I'm seeing. Kawhi's a fraud. His teammates in interviews say that he talks a lot behind the scenes. He's a fraud. He's a fraud.
You're mad. You're mad that he left Toronto. That's
Kawhi's a
what it
fraud, man.
You're
Kawhi's
my man. Kawhi.
I got a question. I got a question. Why would he pretend to be? Why would he be the guy that doesn't talk and say anything and have no emotion instead of the guy that's like outlandish, like fucking Pat Bev or Draymond Green, who get way more media coverage than Kawhi Leonard does for not saying anything? Why would
Because-
that be his route to getting media attention?
because that's
That doesn't
part
make
of-
any sense to me.
Yeah, because that's part of the reason why people love him, though. Like, and you guys are proving my point, and you don't even realize it. Like, this is part of his.
People
his
love
shtick.
him because he's a great player, dumbass. That's why people.
Yeah,
love him.
and because he doesn't talk. People don't like people that talk, bro. Let's be honest. People hated Bryce
Oh,
Harper when he was
please.
coming up because he talked.
Please.
Look at fucking a lot of people. Draymond's one of the most controversial players. Fucking Dylan Brooks yapping his ass off. People hate him. Like, players that talk have
Are we really
worse reputations.
Dylan Brooks to Kawhi Leonard right now?
Obviously not, but that's not the point, bro. The point is players that talk a lot of the time get a worse reputation than guys who just shut up. Like Dame,
Are
bro.
you-
Who the fuck hates Dame?
Are you saying that Dylan Brooks is better at basketball than Kawhi Leonard? Are you out of your mind?
I actually think I hate Dylan Brooks more than I hate Kawhi, bro.
Dylan Brooks.
I haven't-
Who hates Kawhi though? Wait, so you do hate
I don't even
Kawhi?
hate no, I don't even hate Kawhi though.
Yeah, you do.
I just do.
You basically
Yeah, you do.
No. I just think it's corny, bro. I just think he's corny sometimes. But I did look it up. He does. But okay. I'll say I'm wrong about him being corny because I looked it up and he does have a Porsche 911 and he has a Rolls Royce and he bought a Subaru Forester to drive around to be low key in. So he clearly does have a. So he
That's
clearly
a lesbian mobile.
So he clearly does have an attachment to that car that he had. I'll say it, but
An attachment? You mean an attachment?
An attachment to the car that
You said a detachment.
A
no.
detachment.
Oh, wait,
like
did I say a detachment?
Yeah.
I meant
A
attachment. An attachment. But that doesn't what you guys defended Kawhi for was that he's might be frugal. That is bullshit.
Okay. Maybe that was the wrong word choice.
I'm
Wait a
just
minute,
saying, let my guy Kawhi Leonard live. That's all.
Nah,
I'm
I'll take.
because hold on, LT. If the only car he had right now was a '97 Tahoe, bro, I ain't letting him live. That's
I'm not
dumb.
calling him
He's
corny.
corny.
I'm not calling him corny for that.
I
Though.
would
I'm
call him corny
saying
for
that's
that.
my guy. That's
That's
my guy
weird,
Kawhi
bro.
Leonard, and
Nah,
I'm letting him live.
nah, I'm
what
not letting him
saying.
live. Nah, I'm not letting him
Nah,
live.
he
I'm
could
not
be
letting
that
him
type
live.
of person too, bro. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he
Bro,
did that shit.
But you're not that type of person if you literally have two mansions. Bro, you're not that type of person if you have two. If you had one mansion, you could get it by me, right? He has a lot of money. He's got to spend it on something. He has two. What? He doesn't need two. The fuck he need two for?
This guy's just hating now. He's just hating.
You're glazing.
He's just
You're
hating.
glazing the hell out of
You're
him.
just hating. You're just hating.
Nah.
Glazing.
Bro, I mean,
He's glazing.
I'm just saying, bro. I'm just saying.
And now I'm gonna say something about
He's
LeBron.
not-
He's like, if anybody can get a pass, it's LeBron. It's LeBron.
It's true, bro. But at
LeBron's
least
so humble, bro. He talks about his hometown. He only has like 4 mansions and $100 billion.
He only has like 4 mansions.
But LeBron doesn't try to act humble, bro. That's
But
what I
bro,
like
he's just
about
a kid from Akron. He's just a kid from Akron. He remembers his home roots, bro. He opened a school back in Akron because he cares so much about people. But he only has a 15-car garage.
Yeah, but that's why I respect it because he's not trying to be like, oh, look at me, I'm so humble. I drive the same car in high school when you.
So you can respect him. So you can respect him.
Dude, did Kawhi go to the media and be like, guys, look at this old car I drive? Isn't that cool? I know I drive this old car.
He might as well.
No!
Bro. He might as well, bro. Might as well. Also, bro, Kawhi, you're not even. You don't talk enough to
Yeah, he's listening
have
to
the
the podcast.
luxury to say. You don't have the luxury to be like, I'm gonna buy a Forester so I can be low key, bro. No one fucking cares.
Talk
about
to
you.
Kawhi right now because he's listening to this in his car on Bluetooth, but he had to like
In
do
the
that, like,
Forester.
in the Forester. In the Forester.
Kawhi,
Listening right
I'm actually gonna compliment you, Kawhi. If you were playing Tatum 1-on-1, I'd pick you to win.
Okay. You pick anybody
That's-
win.
I would too.
He has to bring Tatum into this.
Yeah.
No, it's just like no.
Two biggest
bro.
idols in basketball: Jason Tatum and Kawhi Leonard. It's
The
biggest
two.
idols.
You
Like,
mean
wait.
the two biggest frauds in basketball?
Like, wait, I'm
You're
hating
welcome.
on Kawhi now. Let me just hate on Tatum real quick.
All right,
Anyways,
so
that's
I wanted to talk about NFL free agency a little bit. Kind of get LT and Pat's thoughts on what the Giants have done so far. Get Pat's thoughts on what the Patriots have done so far. We'll just LT, why don't you kick us off with what the Giants have done? What do you
Well,
think?
yeah, I mean, I think so far you got to really hand it to Schoen or how do you pronounce his name? Schoen.
Shane. Joe Shane.
Shane. Oh, okay. I never even knew that.
Yeah,
So-
I didn't. I thought it was shown too.
Yeah, I've been calling him Schoen this whole time. But regardless, he's been doing a great job this offseason trading for Darren Waller. May I add, for a pick that we didn't even have originally, since it was the pick for the Kadarius Toney trade.
Right.
So we still have a lot of our picks for the draft, which is just great because we do need some corners, a little bit of line depth. We got some stuff to work on in the draft. But regardless, for free agency, we'll say Paris Campbell was a great pickup in my opinion. We got him for pretty cheap too, considering that he's on the uprising, I would like to say. Last year was his best season of his career. Maybe we can get a slight improvement last year in his numbers now that he might get more touches.
Yeah.
Apparently we might not be done since DeAndre Hopkins might be an option for the Giants. They're one of the 5 teams interested. I believe I read. I'm not going to say that's happening or anything,
I
but
read on Twitter today that the Patriots are out on DeAndre Hopkins.
well, that's not a shocker. Honestly, they got.
It's not.
O-line. I don't know if they really like each other anymore.
I can't wait the day that it's announced that Hopkins gets traded to the Chiefs for like a 5th round pick.
I would be very upset to see that, to be honest.
And that
But,
the Chiefs made Arizona take like 75% of his contract. It's gonna happen. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen.
yeah, the Chiefs always end up on top. That's just what they do. But for the Giants, I mean, they've been doing great so far. We'll see how they do during the draft, and if they get some hits during the draft, I think you can say
Yeah,
this
man.
is a very successful offseason for them.
I would say my favorite move of the offseason probably for the Giants would be the Okereke signing.
I didn't even mention that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a huge need for us. I think it's hard to find linebackers in the draft that will come in and be good right away. So I think it's good that we got a guy that's solid, and for the first time in God knows how long, we finally have like real good middle linebacker play. Blake Martinez was solid, but I mean it was
I
like
like Blake.
average.
I like
He was average, but I will say as much upside as the Waller trade has, I kind of look at this was a deep tight end class, and then I watched Brandon Cooks go for a fifth. I almost think I'm not behind the scenes. Maybe Brandon Cooks didn't want to go to the Giants. Maybe they inquired about him and they couldn't make it happen, and then they traded for Waller. But to me, it would have been better to not bring back Slayton for the contract that we paid him, and traded a fourth for Cooks or a fifth for Cooks. But obviously, we're not behind the scenes. We don't know. Maybe they did inquire with him. You never know. So, but overall, I think the Waller trade has high upside. I mean, there's no real. What are you risking? You're risking the 100th overall pick, your second, third rounder. You have 2 third rounders this year. You give up your later one for Waller. There's only good things that could happen out of that. If he sucks,
And
next year we don't have to pay him anything.
yeah, that's the best part of the trade. If he underperforms this year, we can just cut him with no penalty. So that's just great.
Yeah, I actually do like a lot of the moves Shane is making. I think they overpaid a little for Slayton, but I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's not like they guaranteed him the full contract, so they can get out of it if they want to.
Yeah.
But I think they've definitely improved from last year, and I think there's only upside for this team. If Waller is on the field and healthy, I think he's still a great player and will be huge for Jones, who's not a guy that's like pushing the ball downfield all the time, And it's a big if, but it's not like we give up first round. But it's not like we give up first. It's not like we have a first round pick for him. It was a third, so it's like
it's not a huge risk. I think he's missed like 14 games in the last 2 seasons. It's not a huge risk or anything. I'm just saying, I don't think it's bad.
To me,
even if he's signing or anything.
Even if he plays 10 games and is healthy, if we make the playoffs, it's like, okay, we give a third round pick for that. I'm fine with it. He's still been good when he plays.
I'm more than happy if that happens.
Yeah, and I like Bellinger, and I think they probably draft another tight end this year, given how deep the class is. They have a ton of picks. I would expect them to. But, yeah, I mean, Pat, any thoughts on what the Patriots have done so far this offseason?
I don't hate what the Patriots have done. I like the Juju signing. It's an upgrade from Jacoby Myers. Pretty much paying him the same what Myers was asking for. I liked what's the guy from Miami, Mike Gesicki. I don't hate that at all, especially the tight end outside of Hunter Henry last year was pretty weak. And Henry wasn't great either, but
a lot of tight ends on their second contract do better than their first contract. And Mike Gesicki really doesn't fit like that Shanahan offense that McDaniels runs. And I think Belichick, if anyone, will be able to get good usage out of Gesicki. So I actually like that as an underrated signing for the Patriots. I think that could be a big weapon in the red zone and could make some things happen,
Yeah, I mean, we brought back a couple players, Jabril Peppers and Jonathan Jones.
That was a big for me. I think he's really good in that system.
I actually did like James Robinson because I remember his first 2 years in Jacksonville, he was pretty freaking good. I mean, he had like 1,800 yards, I think, maybe in the first 2 seasons, something like that. And then Peterson, Peterson came in, and he kind of wasn't the same. And then they got traded to the Jets, didn't really do anything. So, I mean, obviously, he has some kind of talent. I mean, if, $8 million a year, I'm not losing any sleep over that. If he can do something, he can do something. We lost, what's his face? Damian Harris to the Bills. I don't
Talk
give a
about
fuck.
talk
kinda
about
ass,
the
but-
AFC East, bro. What is with all these AFC East players? They were just changing teams within the division.
Yeah.
I felt like every time there was an AFC East player in free agency, they just went to another AFC East team. It's kind of crazy. But
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I'll end it on
Anthony-
this. Yeah.
what was I? I was gonna say something about. I didn't love the James Robinson move only because I think it's a deep running back class. That they probably could have taken a guy later and draft and not had to pay money.
And then
It's
you know,
not a
obviously,
huge contract. It doesn't really matter.
I still think, obviously, you need wide receiver 1 on this team. I don't think Juju's going to cut it as far. I just think Mac Jones is limited to what he can do by himself. Like, without a stud receiver. I think any quarterback usually then whatever. And if we're getting, why don't we just tank and get Marvin Harrison next year? Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. next year or
Dude,
whatever. I'm fine with that.
Unbelievable.
I'm fine with that. But like people that are like, we're gonna trade for DeAndre Hopkins. No, we're not. You're gonna trade for Jerry Jeudy. Why would the Broncos trade Jerry Jeudy? They have Russ under contract. I don't know. It's just or T Higgins. Like I don't know. A lot of these are pretty unrealistic to me. So I mean, until we get like that stud wide receiver on this team, I think this draft should build a line, get Max some more protection, because a lot of games he was getting ambushed. A lot of
My
Yeah.
worry that the Patriots this year, I think they're going to think their offensive line is better than it is, and they're going to pass on a tackle at 14. And this is a weak tackle class. There are tackles that will go in the first round, and outside of that, there's nothing. It is a thin tackle class. I keep mocking the Patriots tackle at 14, but I've heard that they really like Zay Flowers, the receiver from Boston College, which I just like if they take a corner in the first round this year when it's such a deep class, or like a defensive player, it's gonna be so frustrating to me, and that's where I'm gonna like really get frustrated with Bill. It's like, dude, draft a tackle or receiver with this pick, or like you're in the perfect spot for that in this draft. You need to do it.
Honestly, I would love a tackle in this draft because I think when Matt gets time, I really think he could put together a pretty good game. You saw it in the Minnesota game. He had a ton of time in the pocket, and he looked that was by far his best game the entire season.
Yeah,
because he had a lot of time, and like offensive line. I think it can be like boring or whatever to talk about, to analyze, but they're so important. They're so important.
They did sign Riley Reef, I believe, from the Bengals.
Yeah.
He's it's like, okay, maybe my only worry is Trent Brown. I think Reef will be solid at right tackle.
I mean, he's like 34. Yeah,
Trent Brown is always hurt. I mean, that was the first time he played a full season in a while, and I don't bank on it happening again. But I actually don't think the Patriots receiver core is that far off from being good. I think you have your slot receiver Juju, you have your X and Devontae Parker. If they had a dynamic Z receiver, which Zay Flowers is literally that, I mean, I would love them to pick Zay Flowers at 14, and I think that's a legit receiver core right away. But yeah, I mean, I hope they go tackle or receiver, but who knows with Bill? You never really know, do you? Yeah, I guess that's about it.
Yeah. I totally understood what you guys said because I'm a sports guy myself. There's no other reason why I would be on this podcast if I didn't know sports. Well, anyways, I think that's all the sports stuff that we're going to talk about. I think that's all the sports stuff that we got to talk about. Is there anything on the entertainment side that we got to talk about? Anything that's been happening?
Nothing comes to mind. I do want to at some point. I want to do. Because I'm a pretty big, say whatever you want about him. I do like, I won't say the majority. I'll say I like a lot of, Kanye West, right? I think we all enjoy Kanye West as an artist. As an artist.
I think that's the most important thing this year.
I do not condone anything he has said, mainly in the past 3-4 years. I think he's off his marbles. But
He has
I
been.
love.
He
I
hasn't made
love.
much noise.
Yeah, yeah. I just love his early stuff.
Yeah,
Some of my favorite rap I've ever, my favorite rap of all time. I would love to do a discography thing about that, ranking whatever his albums or whatever, just talking about it. I mean, I love music. I think, talking about that would be a lot of fun. I mean, just try new things, like stuff we haven't done before. It's all about experimenting, and if you
Yeah,
like that
man.
kind of, if you like that kind of stuff, you like that kind of stuff. If you don't, then you don't tune in. It's fine.
Listen, we are
But-
versatile human beings. We know more than just sports. We will talk about movies, music, sports. We'll have story times. We're gonna plan more stuff than just sports. But it does take some ideas.
Real quick, I wanted to talk to LT about the Usman and Edwards fight that happened.
Yes.
LT, you're talking a lot of junk. I want to hear why you were talking mad junk.
I mean, you look at Kamaru Usman, right? Before he lost to Leon Edwards, everyone was comparing him to Adesanya. Everybody was comparing him to Oliveira, all the greats in the UFC right now. Everybody thought that he was right there. And then this quote unquote fluke knockout by Leon Edwards happened, and people still think that Usman's on this level. But then after this next fight, there is no way that anybody who's an actual UFC or MMA fan can say that Usman is on the level of any of the elite fighters in the UFC, because he got a low blow, which was a point deduction, and he still lost by decision, which I feel like there's no excuse for that, especially a low blow in the first round. You had 4 other rounds to recover from that, and it wasn't even a big punch or anything that got him like that. I feel like he's just completely dropped the ball against Leon Edwards. It was a chance to prove that he was the guy
Man, yeah.
in his weight division, and he could not prove it.
Couldn't.
And I think Colby Covington's better than Usman, and I think he deserved that title shot over him as well.
I echo everything you just said. He had his chance to kind of prove that he was that guy in that weight class, and he didn't take advantage of it. And it is a big deal that there was a point taken off, and he still lost by decision. Like, that's you're not that guy at that point. It's like you have to win that fight.
He has to go back to the drawing board after that. I don't know who Dana White wants him to fight next, but it's got to be against a top 5 opponent. And if he drops that one, I don't know what's next for him.
At that point, it's over for it's gotta be, right? I mean, at that point, who cares? Like, you're not proven at that point.
Yeah. That's all I got to say about that, though.
That was real quick. That's all I really wanted to talk about. Other than that, we got nothing else to talk about, right? We're about to wrap it up.
We're good.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this podcast up. Thank you for listening. Before we leave this, please follow us on Twitter at Keepin It PC Pod. Yet again, that's Keepin It PC Pod. Shout out! It's not Anchor anymore. It's now called Podcasters. Spotify for Podcasters. What a weird name,
Yes,
but
sir.
anyways, shout out Podcasters. Make sure you download that app. I'm pretty sure you probably skipped the ad in the beginning, but anything else you guys want to say before we wrap this up?
WBC's elite should stay in March.
Yes, Pat. Yes.
WBC is elite, but they should move it. And drink some water. Stay hydrated.
Drink some water. All right. Without further ado, have a good night.